to the premiere episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent. That's me. I'm Trent of Trent Tokens. This is my new YouTube live studio / guest bedroom. I also sleep in here when I snore too much, which is a lot. Speaking of my wife, thank you. She just said break your leg. Thank you. Earlier she said break both my legs, my back, and everything. I'm not sure if she understood the good look symbol or the good luck symbol. Looks like comments are coming in. I was very worried about not being able to figure out how the comments were going to work. Thank you all. Snake Eyes, 1, 2, Free for All, Jenny, Binia, so good to see you. David, Ben, my wife, she has to watch. And John, and my good buddy David is listening in and monitoring. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, TB, nice color in the studio. This is so exciting. Today, this show is the premiere episode of True Dungeon Talk with Trent, something I've thought about doing for a long time. I'm really excited to get it off the ground. This first episode, we're going to talk about who the heck am I. We're going to do a little intro to True Dungeon for those people who aren't familiar with it. I suspect a lot of the people listening in are, but I hope that later people will come and watch the video and see a little intro. Going to talk about how I got into True Dungeon a little bit, and also please stick around to the end because I have a special announcement. I know how I can say good luck and tell my wife. Oh my God, Jen, stop commenting all the time. That's my wife. She's nuts, which I'm very happy about because if she wasn't nuts, she wouldn't have married me. So, oh, that's her right there. By the way, see this cool thing? That's something that Bo, who's also nuts, he got that off of Facebook and had me pose for it. Jeff and Lori have one too. So thank you, Bo. And of course, thank you, Jeff, and the whole True Dungeon crew for making the most amazing game of all time. John says you love special announcements. I think you're going to really like this one. Okay, so let's get started. First, let's do product placement, in case you need a coffee mug. This episode is sponsored by Trent Tokens. Good New York water. Oh, speaking of that, there might be sirens and stuff happening. When that happens, I'm going to hit this button, and then you won't be able to hear anything. Or if I get very excited, I might say some, which is my favorite button. Here's another favorite button of mine.
Yeah, this is my favorite button. And here's my second favorite button.
It's like an old-timey radio. I mean, I want to go down to the store and buy something. Yeah, exciting. Okay, so those are my favorite buttons. All right, so I took notes here. All right, so let's see. The episodes, the future episodes, as some of you may have heard, will be a lot of interviews. I definitely want to try to do interviews, a lot of them. I want to do interviews with staff members of True Dungeon, with fellow players, with people who are experts, if you will, at particular classes, which reminds me about the survey. If you haven't filled in the survey yet, check the about and the description. If the link's not there, I'll put it there. The survey is a big way to help me get information from you guys and get suggestions, because I want this show to be, something good for you. So please fill out the survey and give me your ideas, suggestions for future shows. And I've already gotten a lot of really good suggestions through the survey, so thank you very much. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. And speaking of that, so many people have already subscribed. Thank you very much to all the subscribers. And let's see, tell us about your tech as well, Jeff. I think I will probably do a behind the scenes video with all the tech, because Jenny says Jeff is a tech nerd. I think because you're asking that question, you probably can tell that there's some tech behind this. All of this took me actually a few months of me going kind of nuts and back and forth, and what camera to get and what mic to get, what headphones and computer and a sound hardware interface and a camera interface. So I will list all of that and maybe even do a video about that. So I will definitely do some type of a video on the tech side. All right, so let's see. Subscribe, do the survey, and please post in the comments. I want this to be an interactive show. I know a lot of people in the True Dungeon community And if you're not familiar with the True Dungeon community, they're the best. It's, I would have to say primarily, the primary reason why I got so involved, because, you know, we can choose to do all kinds of different things. And I think I mentioned this before in a different video on Facebook maybe, but I choose to do this because the community is amazing. And if you haven't experienced the community yet, when you do, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're the absolute best. All right, so the first segment here, after that little intro, is who the heck am I? So I'll actually tell you my full name. I don't usually tell a lot of people my full name, but now, you know, the few viewers on this video will hear it. My full name is actually James Lester Trent Jr. My father was James Lester Trent Sr. I have a son named James Lester Trent III, and hopefully one day he's married, and they have a beautiful daughter and named Juniper, and maybe if they have a son one day, hopefully he'll be the fourth. I'd like to have a dynasty, but I go by Trent. I've gone by Trent since I was in high school. I was in Navy Junior ROTC in high school, and everybody went by their last name, so it's just something that stuck my whole life. Speaking of high school, actually, let me back up here. I was born in Florida, and I was raised in southern Georgia, a place called Valdosta, Georgia. And, all right, we can refer to you as JLT. Yes, John. JLTJ. So, speaking of that, my mom used to call me Junior. Used to make me nuts. That's right, David. It's the Trent Token Dynasty. So, born in Florida, raised in southern Georgia, a place called Valdosta. I graduated high school at 17, and I joined the Navy. I always knew that I wanted to travel, so I joined the Navy, like my father was in the Navy. And I traveled all over, had a wonderful time. And in the Navy, I became a computer nerd. And right before I got out of the Navy, I started a computer business to see if it would be successful enough for me to get out. And it was successful enough, so I got out of the Navy and did my computer business. And this was in the Frederick, Maryland area. And while I was there, I met a group of people who were starting a theater called Maryland Ensemble Theater. And if any of the Met people are watching, hello. And with that theater group, I studied a lot of acting and improv, and also became part of their improv troupe called the Comedy Pigs. Yes, that's the true name, and it's a very funny improv and sketch comedy. Hi, Skylar. Hey, B Powers. And it was something that's pretty amazing, and I realized that was something I kind of always wanted to do, so I decided to pursue that. First, I was doing my business and acting on the side, and then I was acting with my business on the side. So I won't go too deep into the story for too long, but from the Maryland, D.C. area, I went to Chicago, where I studied more improv and sketch and did some plays and film, etc. there. And then I moved out to L.A. To pursue more film. And while there, I had a chance to go to Korea to do a teaching job, and I did. I went to Korea, which is an amazing country. I highly recommend going to South Korea. It's such a beautiful, beautiful place. From South Korea, I moved back to L.A., and then from LA to New York. So that's where I'm at now. I'm in New York, and I work in the software industry. And that's the section about me. Let's see if I skipped anything. I think that's everything. Let's see. Let's check chat. Improv is paying off. That's right, TB. Speaking of improv, another product placement. David Wiggins, that's my brother. Oh my God! Don't say anything dirty in the chat there, David. He goes, I call him DJ, by the way. Pardon me, I'm going to mute. Bo. Bo, my shoe size is 11.5. So now, I think that's Bo's way of saying that I just bored you. I apologize, guys. All right, so how did I get into True Dungeon? I'll explain what True Dungeon is in a hair, but first I want to talk about how I got into True Dungeon. Okay, and by the way, speaking of True Dungeon, feel free to post in the comments how you guys got into True Dungeon, because then people can hear and read how a lot of different people got into True Dungeon. I think that might be interesting. So feel free to post in the comments how you got into True Dungeon. And I suspect that most of us will say one of our friends brought us in. Now, when it came to True Dungeon, actually something happened before True Dungeon for me. I had never played Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot of people will say that True Dungeon is like a live version of Dungeons and Dragons. So it was my birthday. I think it would have been 2016ish or maybe 2015ish. I think it was 2015. So it was 2015 during my birthday, and I was browsing the web looking just around for something, and I saw this little ad that said D&D. And I thought, oh yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. I thought, wow, that's right. I've always wanted to play that game. Let me figure out what this is all about. And I realized that there was a game store really close to me, and I thought, I'm going to go to the game store and learn about it. So I did, and I went and I got all the books, and I met a bunch of other fellow nerds, and I was like, wow, these are my people. I should have been doing this, for a long time. And I became friends with a lot of people there, and became really good friends with a guy named Sean. And Sean became our house dungeon master, and have been playing D&D with that group and a lot of people coming and going since then. But the following year, in 2016, he said, I'm going to this gaming convention called Gen Con. And I had never really heard of a gaming convention, and of course, so I had never heard of Gen Con. And I said, okay, great, I'd love to go. And they said, oh, by the way, there's this great game there called True Dungeon. And you play it with tokens, and it's awesome, and you got to play it. And I was like, sign me up. And then he said, it was almost like an afterthought. He goes, oh, by the way, you don't need to buy any tokens. I have a bunch. And I said, okay, because I didn't know what he was talking about. And he said, but if you want, you can buy a weapon. TrueDungeon.com. And I said, okay. So I go to TrueDungeon.com, and I think you can figure out the rest. I buy one token. It was a +2 Death Cleaver. And then the next day I did some research and realized that could turn into a +3. And then it could turn into a +5. And there's these other things that could give you treasure. And the rest is history. And that's what all of those binders are behind you there. So I'll do a more in-depth episode about that craziness in the future. But that's kind of the brief version. Maybe Bo wouldn't say it's so brief, but of how I got into True Dungeon and had heard of Gen Con. Let's check with the comments here. Let's see. Laura Forever started going to Gen Con. Awesome. That's pretty. You made. Oh yeah, I did make Trent tokens pretty quick. I bought a 1-2 free for all. Says that I made Trent tokens pretty quickly. Yeah, I did because I am a little nuts. For those of you who know me, know that I'm pretty nuts, and I had played MMOs forever. I played pretty much every MMO ever, and knew that it was all about the progression, going up in levels and getting a better armor, then you could fight better monsters, and I kind of assumed it was the same thing. So I got a lot of tokens, and then I had a lot of extra tokens. And if you go on to the TrueDungeon.com forums, you can see one of my earliest posts. It might be my second post. I had already begun thinking about either a store or a forum post store or a website or something, because I just had so many extras. So yes, that did happen pretty quickly. Let's see. So John's, his friend Spud, Jeff volunteered in 2004. Ben, a friend introduced. Mark, I think that's right, your wife. I've heard that story, Mark. Jake started in 2009. Your buddy wandered in. Jen, we threw away. Oh my God, listen. Okay, this is my wife. Let's see what she says. We threw away our couch and dining room table for his new game table. That was the starting. Yes, so that's true. My dining room is no longer the dining room. It's the gaming room. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, honey. And oh, cool. So Snake Eyes, just some random mysterious man started playing. David lives in Indy, so that's how he got hooked. Robin and Justin, that's how they started. Okay, so that's great. I love reading the comments. And as I said, my first token was a +2 Death Cleaver. How about you guys? What was your first token? Did you fall in love with a particular token, and do you have a special token that you really like? Okay, Bo, that's where you started. All right, so for those of you who aren't familiar with True Dungeon, and actually let me back up a hair. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. I skipped something. My first run. So as I said, my buddy Sean introduced me to what Gen Con was. And speaking of Gen Con, I must share this. When I first went to Gen Con in Indianapolis, when I first entered the doors and I looked out, there was a sea of people. And for anyone who has not gone to Gen Con before or any gaming convention before, I highly recommend it. If that's too many people for you, go to a smaller one. I suspect even the smaller ones are the same. But what I saw was a sea of people that were very different. Everybody, there's different shapes and sizes, nationalities, but everyone had something in common. They all loved games, and they were all kind and generous and giving and very sweet and gentle. I just felt like I belonged there. Even now I'm kind of reliving that relaxation of that moment. It was just such a happy place, and I highly recommend you going. And if you haven't gone to something like that before, you will find a lot of people who are just like you, who love games and just want to be kind and gentle with each other and have a good time playing games. So I highly recommend it. But my first run, which is maybe something that some people might find interesting. So I had just started playing D&D. This was my first Gen Con and my first time playing True Dungeon. And while I was on the forums, I found out about something called a golden ticket. And a golden ticket is just like the Willy Wonka type golden ticket in the candy bar. Now there's 60. There used to be 40. And you open up the tokens that you order, kind of like the chocolate bar, and inside is a golden ticket, and it's a special token. I'll do a future episode about what a golden ticket is and how the golden ticket run happens. But for those of you who are familiar with it, you may be surprised to hear that was my first run. So speaking of Jenny, I had Vinia make me a sash. I filled it with a lot of high-level tokens because I was insane and I was, collecting all the cool tokens. And I ended up winning an auction for a golden ticket token, and that was my first run in 2016. It was amazing, and I've been hooked ever since, and I highly recommend it. Let's see, let me catch up here. Series are awesome as well. True Dungeon boxes, Bastard Sword. Oh, that's funny. I'll show you a Bastard Sword in a couple seconds here. And John and Jake, thank you guys for commenting. All right, so True Dungeon. What is True Dungeon? For those of you who are not aware of True Dungeon, and speaking of that in the comments, if you don't mind, can you explain how you describe True Dungeon? Because I think for the past year or two, it might be a little easier to explain it to some people because of escape rooms. Once they become more popular, I think people start to use that connection. But for a while, back in the day, it was kind of difficult to, I found it was difficult to explain it. I just said you gotta experience, and that's how you're going to understand what it is. So yeah, in the comments, please describe how you would describe True Dungeon to a new person. Okay, let's see what people say here. All right, David, a series of 12-minute escape rooms with a medieval D&D theme. Wow, that's succinct. That's right, Dr. David. I'm so sorry that I abused your Facebook channel recently and put, a hat on a professional-looking photo. I apologize, sir. Ben, a D&D escape room. Mike, escape room meets Disney World meets D&D. Fiddy, I say True Dungeon is 1/3 D&D, 1/3 escape room, 1/3 haunted house, 100% awesome. Ooh, I might steal that. Fiddy. Haunted house, remove the scares. Yeah, you're right, remove the scares. So I agree. Looks like Rachel says it's Dungeons & Dragons meets Legends of the Hidden Temple. Oh, I don't know what the Hidden Temple is, but I'm sure I agree with you. All right, so Jeff is definitely going to have a good one here. Jeff Chandler says it's a real-life D&D game where you play, and it's not just rolling dice to decide your outcome. You do it. Yeah, that's great. So this is all. Oh, Snake Eyes says, did everyone lose the show? Are we? Hopefully we're still live. Everything looks good on my end. Let me just check with my buddy here. I'm sorry if there's... Nope, it's still up. Okay, must just be you, Snake Eyes. Sorry. All right. Thank you for checking there, guys. I got... Okay, so David says we're still good. All right, so now I'm basically going to repeat what you guys are saying, because that's exactly what I say. And for anyone else who is watching this or listening to this, if you don't know what D&D is, or Dungeons and Dragons, so let's kind of start there, because I think that's a good beginning. Imagine a table of people sitting around telling a story together. There's one person who's kind of like the moderator or the dungeon master, the game master, who is helping the players along their way, and through dice and the characters that they have created, the archetype characters, a cleric, a fighter, a wizard, and all kinds of other characters. They are going on some type of story and quest